What's going on, gamers? We got a post here that's actually blowing up and doing well that came out a few days ago that I didn't get to yet, but there's other topics about it coming up as well. And of course, we know stuff like this is going to be huge in the midst of Sony announcing that they're ending physical disc production in 2028. Well, we got RPCS3, which we know is a PS3 emulator that has been worked on by some awesome people in the PC world for a while, because a lot of people wanted Sony to have physical backwards compatibility support for PS3 during the PS5 generation, even during the PS4 they were talking about it, but I can understand the limitations of that. But with PS5, there's no more limitations. And we heard about the cell processing errors going on, but there's been plenty of videos that have covered it, even on a weaker dev kit that was weaker than the PS5 launch, running those games at 4K 60 frames per second, some at 1440p, as we saw Digital Foundry did it, and a couple of other people. So yeah, here we go with gaming preservation and ownership coming back in Sony's face in the midst of all of this. This emulator is now not only done, but it is now having 75% of all PS3 games being playable on PC. Become a member, leave a tip down below, like, comment, subscribe. Let's get into this. So that's actually interesting. As we see, it's over 1 million views down here. A lot of people are into this. 21,000 likes, 3,200 bookmarks, and over 300 comments. So let's see what is in here and what people are actually demanding. I want you guys to let me know what you think about this as well. 75% of all PS3 games are now playable on PC is pretty massive. As we know, the only way to get to them now is on Sony's PlayStation Plus or PlayStation Extra Premium, which is kind of like controlled by them. Though it's their games, you can do whatever you want with your games, but at least give people the option to have ownership, not only using something on a service, right? This is something that people would get mad at with Nintendo before, but at least they allowed you to buy stuff back then, but only on one certain console. And if that was taken down like a virtual console, you really had no other option outside that unless you own the device, and you could still get the physical copies of that. So at least that option was always there. Like I still have my SNES, my NES, my 64, my GameCube, my Sega Dreamcast, and all the Dreamcast games. Yeah, I have the physical copies of all of those games and everything preserved with, it's all working still. Yeah, it's crazy how that works, huh? Consoles could be designed like that. So this right here is giving people an idea that this here is so close to having the whole PlayStation 3 lineup. 75% is pretty huge. Now, whether it plays perfectly or not, we're going to be finding out. RPCS3 continues to be improved with new features, fixes, and optimizations. They're still doing that till this day, bringing it ever closer to preserving the entire PS3 library. So, to them, it's like, well, Sony, if you're not going to let me get my physical copies, you're not going to let me preserve, and I'm only able to get stuff on a renting service, then I'm going to do that myself. Now, like I said, it's different if there is no way to play these games, like if they shut down the PS3 store, you know what I mean? And you don't own anything on there, so they're like, hey, you know, if I can't play my PS3 online anymore or anything like that, then I don't have the option to get these games anymore if I wanted to get something too, and there's no more physical inside of the stores. You have to like go out and search for them. But what this does is this just allows it to forever be up on the digital realm, and you can actually own it. But what people want also is not just being able to do that, but an actual playable version. Going to the compatibility list, we're going to get some things here. It says there are current compatible games that have been tested with the emulator. This list is subject to change frequently. Be sure to check this page often to follow the latest updates. Clicking on a game's ID will redirect you to the respective forum thread. Clicking the title will redirect you to the respective wiki page. So we have the application aspects right here. Playable, 75.33% games that can be completed with playable performance and no game-breaking glitches. This is why they said 75% up here of all PS3 games are now playable on PC. When they mean that, they mean you can actually complete the game and you're not going to be glitched and the performance is going to be fine. Now, the majority after that is almost there too. It says in-game. Games that either can't be finished, have serious glitches, or insufficient performance. We see that, right? But at least they're not down to nothing. That's no longer there. Loading 0.3% games that can't display that display a black screen with a frame rate on the Windows title. That's very, very low now. Intro, games that display image but don't make it past the menus. That's only 1.71%. So when you really think about it, there's a lot of games that can still be booted up and played, but they have glitches and performance issues. And they're trying to narrow that down to hopefully, you know, get this up to 80% or more. But this is still a huge preservation, because who do you know that if you went to ask them could tell you, do you have 75% of the actual PS3 library right now in your hands? Most people don't own 75%. They own what they want to own. So this right here is still already a lot of preservation. You know what I mean? And if Sony comes and attacks this, that will be different. But it seems like it's still going. So, hey, kudos to these guys, right? Let's keep going down here, though. Reading some of the comments, we got something else to take a look at, too, after this. He says, you can search for your favorite game on our compatibility list right here. So you go to rpcs3.net/compatibility, and there you will see what games you want to search for, whether it's a part of this 75% or it's underneath here, and you get very unlucky if it's there, right? But all in all, you still have that there. Jesse G says, PC, the only place where you can have your cake and eat it too. Sometimes. I don't know about that, man. The prices are terrible now. I feel like Nintendo's giving people that. You got all third-party games. Sometimes you get some PlayStation games. You get Xbox games. You have all Nintendo exclusives. You got physical preservation. You got all the retro games on there for a cheap price. Just try buying those somewhere else. They cost so much. And you have on the go and docked. Hey, man, I'm just saying there's a lot of benefits in there from the strictly gaming performance. But if you want to talk about emulation and all that other stuff and getting PlayStation games, older Nintendo games, some Xbox games, and playing, you know, certain PlayStation exclusives now, yeah, Xbox games, and having Steam and GOG, yeah, of course. I mean, it's highly customizable. There's no doubt about that. So White Knight Chronicles and the Killzone trilogy is the ones I want. Yeah, that one's going to be tough. There's a reason for that. But yeah, if you guys are wondering if that was there, yeah, Killzone trilogy is not on the list yet, but it's going to get there. Going down, he says, please, this one, right? We got Infamous. Yeah, I mean, what I think right now, and I don't know if you guys read those older posts, Sony is working on Infamous remasters. And hopefully that's out before 2028. You could have the physical copy of that. And I think they're working on a next-gen Infamous. So that is going to be something that is going to be for sure happening. Because when we were taking a look at that video I made, I think it was like a month and a half or so ago, maybe a little bit more, they were working on a lot of classics for PS6 and stuff like that. So, but it's going to be cross-gen. So I think that'll most likely be out for 2028. But even then, it still sucks that people have to be on the edge about that. It's like, man, I still can't believe they're doing it. Pepe says, you rock. Thank you for doing what Sony want. I am sick of consoles. Locking games to hardware should be criminal. Not if it's your games. You can do whatever you want. That's like telling the creator what they can do with their own stuff. I mean, you need that competition to make the industry healthy. It was amazing when Xbox was competing with PlayStation and Nintendo and Steam going on at the same time. And then before that, you had Sega. You know what I mean? That's what makes things interesting. That's like saying, you know, everything should be available on all sports teams. It's like, what are you talking about? No, unique competition is what makes it the most interesting. It's the ownership that you're not having, which is the problem here. And the overpriced market due to AI inflation. And these are PC parts. Don't be a hypocrite on that. I'm not getting into that. All games should be playable on any hardware capable of running said game. No. Only from that's what third parties call, dude. You're trying to kill exclusivity and creativity. Like, in innovation like that, you need first party for that reason in every aspect of life. Disney's not going to be putting all its content on other aspects. Netflix is Netflix competing in its own world with its own exclusives. Marvel has its own stuff. Marvel isn't dropping stuff in the DC world unless they team up, Marvel versus DC or something. DC has its own stuff with Batman. Identity is very important. Apple's number one on the market again. They have their own identity. Nvidia has their own identity. Microsoft's identity is in trouble, but you know, you think of Windows, Google, YouTube. You think about Nintendo, they have their identity. This, like I said, Disney, they have their identity. Like AMD, like these identities of what made the industry what it is today. Like, you do not want that to be killed off. You want that to be at the highest degree, but more pro-consumer friendly and affordable. Then it's not really so much a problem. The hardware was never really the problem. But now hardware is a problem because it's vastly overpriced due to RAM and AI cartel SSD monopolies. It's bad. You got SSD monopolies coming on. That's rising up, but the RAM cartel monopoly is bad. The AI feed is bad. SSD's on the way. Get ready. You see what I mean? So it's more about ownership, I would say, in this more than anything. Beat Heavenly Sword on RPCS3 emulator. Dope game. Cool. Like I said, if this is up and Sony's not saying anything, I'm not one to combat it. Definitely in the midst of what's going on now. I'm not against emulation in that sense. I think emulation is plausible when the company wants to screw you over, take away your preservation, give you no option to own anything, and then try to sell you a license. And I'm like, okay, I can see why you guys are actually doing that. And you have no other way of getting it, and you want, you know, other options. That's okay. But at the end of the day, like, if you created something, nobody can tell you what to do with it. But you still have the right to rebel too, because that's free will of choice. Goat Zone 2? Yeah, before it was the boring PlayStation 4 version. I hope the games with the in-game compatibility turn soon to playable. So you can see some of these games here. Let's actually go take a look. AC Brotherhood, AC Revelations. Oh, important games. Assassin's Creed 2. But you can play these games. Battlefield Bad Company, Call of Duty Modern Warfare, Black Ops 2. Well, we know what happened with that. You got the digital version right there on PlayStation. That's kind of funny. So it tells you not supported, by the way. World at War, Formula 1, Uncharted. Oh, yeah, you can get the Uncharted games. Yeah, good luck with that, right? Uncharted 2, Uncharted 3, Uncharted Drake's Fortune. I think that this is not an accident. I think there's something to this. I want you guys to let me know what you think about that as well. Because when you look at some of these games, it's like, who are the companies telling you shouldn't own nothing? Then you look at certain things, Assassin's Creed, right? Yeah, there's something off there that they did on purpose, right? And this was actually 24 minutes ago, right? But yeah, the Uncharted trilogy, that actually makes sense. That's where you need to see if Sony's going to do something when something like that happens. But I don't know. It seems like they're not doing anything. And there's people saying they can't do much about that as long as like they're not making money off of it. God of War 3 win. It's the only game which matters to me. I have already completed Demon Souls, which performed flawlessly till the end. Oh, that's pretty cool. Okay, so, I mean, that's saying a lot right there. But guys, we're kind of getting this here. So going back, they have another post, though. Right? The one we just looked at was there. He says right here, you will be able to play... Here's the next thing. You will be able to play PS3 games without installing the PS3 firmware in the future. Ooh, that's huge. You see that? Another PS3 system module, Cell Sys module, is now fully implemented on RPCS3 instead of being loaded from the PlayStation 3 firmware. This just went up like barely 2 days ago. Thanks to the Capriots bringing us a bit closer to this long-term goal. So not only do you have 75% basically heading towards 80% easily before the end of this year, you're going to be able to play it without installing the PlayStation 3 firmware in the future. That's massive. Phil says, isn't XBM still dependent on the firmware? XBM comes with the firmware package. To use the XBM, you need to install the firmware. XBM is optional and not required to run games. Damn. Baruto Uzumaki says, it will be very interesting if the emulator had an option that automatically configured the best settings to run each game. Look at what RPCS3 says here. It already exists. If you boot a game without touching the settings, it uses the RPCS3 wiki settings for that game automatically. No manual configuration is required other than personal preferences such as resolution scale, anisotropic filtering, vertical sync, among others. That's actually pretty cool. Going down, he says, wow, I didn't know that option existed. I'm going to try setting God of War Ascension up the way to see if it runs. He says, wait, for real? This has to be more shared around. Yesterday, I just had to set up Metal Gear Solid 4 using the wiki settings. This is just so nice to know. So if you guys didn't know that, that option is right there in front of you. Iman says, would that also include the PS1 and PS2 BIOS implementation? He says, no, that is not within the scope of the RPS. Yeah, this is the RPCS3. Yeah, that makes sense because that's for PlayStation 3 firmware. That's not PS2 firmware. PS1, that's a little bit different. So there we go, guys. I want you guys to let me know what you think about this. Do you think that this is something that's interesting and deadly in front of Sony's face at the moment among the ending physical preservation and shutting down the PS3 and PS Vita store? And now you have an option to still be able to have some of those options go on in the PC world. Let me know what you guys think. Like I said, become a member, leave a tip down below. Like, comment, and subscribe. Remember, keep on gaming no matter what platform or app you're on. This is coming along pretty nice. I remember looking at this last year and the beginning of this year, and these guys are steadily making progress. Interesting stuff. Later, y'all.